Envision the Arabian Peninsula in the mid-7th century AD. A vast expanse of sun-baked deserts, dotted with scarce oases, home to fragmented tribes. These groups had spent centuries in conflict, often over basic resources like water and livestock, and it lacked universities, libraries, or any centralized governance. In all historical accounts, this appeared as a desolate fringe of the civilized world, especially compared to its powerful neighbors. Flanking this region stood the mighty Byzantine Empire, boasting marble palaces, millennia of culture, and formidable legions. To its other side lay the Sasanian Persian Empire, a successor to Cyrus and Darius, renowned for its sophisticated bureaucracy, astronomy, and philosophy. So, positioned between these two colossal powers were just sand, camels, and nomadic peoples. But here's the astonishing part. From this apparent void, in under a century, emerged the largest empire the world had ever witnessed. The Arab Caliphate completely absorbed Persia and carved away half of Byzantium's territories, swiftly seizing Egypt, Syria, Mesopotamia, North Africa, and even Spain. Its reach extended eastward to the borders of China and westward to the Atlantic Ocean, all accomplished within the span of just 2 generations. Just pause and consider the implications of these figures. Rome required 700 years to forge its empire, while Alexander the Great, a military genius with an established army, needed a decade for a smaller conquest. Even Genghis Khan's Mongols, with their era's finest cavalry, took several decades. Yet, according to official accounts, these were tribes who barely read, lacked a standing army, and knew nothing of siege warfare. Suddenly, they built a navy, defeated the professional forces of 2 global superpowers, and established an administrative system across 10 million square kilometers. This isn't merely history, it's a true detective case. And in this case, there's a victim. The official narrative, which crumbles when subjected to even the slightest serious inquiry. Who were the Arabs, truly? From where did this explosive energy originate? What hidden truths lie beneath the portrayal of backward nomads we've been so diligently taught? We are now opening this investigation. And let me warn you up front. What we uncover will dismantle many of the beliefs you currently hold. Let's begin by examining the official version of history, the one taught in schools and reiterated in documentaries and popular encyclopedias. This narrative claims that before Islam, the Arabian Peninsula was home to scattered Bedouin tribes, living in an age of ignorance known as Jahiliyyah. They supposedly worshipped idols, engaged in constant warfare, and lacked any form of statehood, widespread literacy, or developed urban culture. Then, in the 6th century, Islam emerged, providing a powerful impetus that unified the tribes and miraculously transformed everything. While this story is convenient and seemingly straightforward, it is either completely false or, at best, monstrously incomplete. Let's meticulously dismantle this narrative, starting with the term Jahiliyyah itself, the so-called Age of Ignorance. This label was coined by Muslim historians to categorize the pre-Islamic era, much like Christian chronicles dismissed pre-conversion Europe as pagan darkness. Such an approach isn't genuine history. It's ideology disguised as historical fact. Researchers, however, have uncovered truths that completely shatter this image of ignorance. Our first piece of evidence: pre-Islamic Arabic poetry. It is extensive, highly sophisticated, and still considered a benchmark for classical Arabic. Consider the Mu'allaqat, 7 or 10 epic poems reputedly inscribed in gold and displayed on the Kaaba's walls before Islam. These are not simple folk songs, but profound philosophical lyrics, rich with complex imagery, metaphors, and intricate metrics. Imru al-Qais, a 6th century poet, crafted verses of such psychological depth that 19th century European romantics were astonished upon discovering them. How could ignorant nomads develop such a high-level poetic tradition, which implies centuries of cultural accumulation, schools, teachers, and an appreciative audience? Our second piece of evidence points to vast trade networks. Official history acknowledges Arab traders but significantly downplays the true scale of their commercial activities. The Arabian Peninsula was strategically positioned at the nexus of the ancient world's most vital trade routes, connecting India and China to the Mediterranean. But if all this was true, why is there such limited knowledge about it? Why does the Sabaean kingdom receive only a paragraph in standard ancient history courses, while Greece and Rome fill entire volumes? The answer is straightforward and uncomfortable. A complete understanding of pre-Islamic Arabian civilization undermines two convenient ideologies simultaneously. The first is the Eurocentric view, which traces a line of progress through Greece, Rome, and Christian Europe, leaving no space for Arabia. The second is the Islamic theological narrative, which finds it convenient to portray Jahiliyyah as an era of utter darkness, from which faith alone brought enlightenment and greatness. Both versions benefit from depicting pre-Islamic Arabia as a cultural void, an empty landscape devoid of significant history. Our fourth piece of evidence concerns writing. We are often told that Arabs lacked a developed written tradition, but this assertion is simply false. The Nabatean script, the direct precursor to the Arabic alphabet, was in use in northern Arabia from at least the 1st century BCE, and the Sabaean script in the south from the 10th century BCE. Thousands of inscriptions on stone, metal, and ceramics have been discovered, studied, and are housed in museums, yet they are conspicuously absent from popular historical accounts. The fifth piece of evidence relates to military competence. Official history often explains early Arab conquests solely through religious enthusiasm. This explanation is so unscientific that it feels awkward even to scrutinize. Religious zeal does not teach the construction of siege engines or the creation of a navy, nor does it develop tactics for engaging heavy cavalry. Yet, 7th century Arab forces displayed precisely these capabilities. They exhibited tactical adaptability, engineering expertise, negotiation skills, and the capacity to govern conquered territories. Such proficiency is acquired only through experience, tradition, and knowledge accumulated over generations. The official narrative's alibi crumbles. We are not looking at primitive nomads suddenly illuminated by faith. Instead, we see the inheritors of ancient civilizations, bearers of a centuries-old cultural tradition whose history was deliberately curtailed from both ends. This truncation was performed by both European historians and Muslim theologians. If this is true, then a fundamental question arises. Who were they at their deepest core? These early inhabitants domesticated animals and established permanent settlements, proving Arabs are not newcomers to the Arabian Peninsula. Their presence there isn't a result of recent migration, but rather stretches back to the deepest antiquity, to the very inception of civilization itself. A second piece of evidence points to a connection with the Natufian culture, an enigmatic people inhabiting modern-day Israel, Palestine, Syria, and Lebanon 12 to 15,000 years ago. Most archaeologists believe these Natufians laid the groundwork for what would later become the Sumerian and Babylonian civilizations. Genetic studies confirm a direct link between Natufians and the current populations of Arabia and the Levant. This ancient thread remains unbroken. It connects today's Arabs directly to those who stood at the very genesis of human civilization, reaching back across millennia. Furthermore, genetics unveils another surprising revelation. Haplogroup E1b1b, a marker prevalent among Arabs in North Africa and the Levant. This haplogroup indicates ancient connections with populations from the Horn of Africa, including Ethiopia and Somalia. This isn't mere coincidence or recent migration. It testifies to human movement across the Red Sea in both directions tens of thousands of years ago. At that time, sea levels were much lower, and the strait far narrower, making Arabia and the Horn of Africa two shores of a single ancient cradle. Now, let's explore what geneticists consider one of the region's most intriguing puzzles. Haplogroup R1a. This marker, typically associated with Indo-European peoples and steppe nomads, appears significantly among Arabs in Yemen and Oman. Its presence cannot be explained by recent interactions alone, suggesting an ancient admixture in southern Arabia 3 to 4,000 years ago with peoples from the north or east. The identity of these groups, whether traders, conquerors, or migrants, remains an open question, adding complexity to the Arab genetic tapestry. The most powerful evidence in this chapter comes from language itself, a complex code that Arabic holds, revealing secrets still being deciphered by linguists. Deciphering this linguistic complexity demands centuries of dedicated textual analysis, deep contemplation, and extensive knowledge of its intricate structure. This leads us to a fascinating discovery. Arab scholars from the 7th to 11th centuries possessed profound knowledge of ancient South Arabian tongues, such as Sabaic, Minian, and Katabanic. These linguists viewed them as sister languages to Arabic, yet independent. They referred to them collectively as Himyaritic languages, honoring the significant pre-Islamic kingdom of southern Arabia. To this day, Arabic retains distinct lexical layers that experts attribute solely to ancient loanwords originating from these very same South Arabian languages. In essence, the Arabic language isn't a singular, unchanging entity. Rather, it resembles a geological cross-section, displaying layers from various historical epochs. We find a North Arabian layer, the tongue of Central Arabian traders and poets, alongside a South Arabian stratum, a legacy of Yemen's ancient kingdoms. There's also an Akkadian layer reflecting Babylonian trade, an Egyptian layer from Sinai contacts, and a Greek layer showcasing Hellenistic influence across the Near East. Thus, Arabic transcends mere communication. It functions as a vibrant archive, a living museum of countless civilizations that have flourished and faded over millennia. Its enduring preservation, vast spread, and role as a language of science and art confirm it's not merely a fleeting trend. Instead, it represents a civilizational tradition of such profound depth and resilience that no political turmoil has ever managed to extinguish it. Both genetics and linguistics assert that Arabs are a people deeply rooted in human history, their genes carrying Neolithic migrations and their language preserving echoes of ancient civilizations. Yet, words and genetic markers only provide a partial picture. We require tangible evidence. Stones, walls, and artifacts we can physically examine. Our next clue lies buried beneath the earth. Some truths cannot be altered. Stones don't change their testimony, nor do ancient walls yield to ideological pressure. A foundation won't simply vanish because it challenges a theory. Examining the immense legacy of pre-Islamic Arabia in earth and stone reveals a magnificent picture, prompting one urgent question. Why is this not openly celebrated? Let's begin in the north with Petra. This city, carved into the pink sandstone of modern Jordan, was the capital of the Nabatean kingdom. You might recognize its famous facade, Al-Khazna, the treasury. Nabateans perfected a unique waterproof cement for their cisterns, a formula that vanished with their kingdom and was only rediscovered by Europeans in the 11th century. This means Arabs in the 1st century CE possessed technology that Europe would only grasp 18 centuries later. Why is this remarkable achievement so rarely discussed? The Nabatean kingdom inconveniently contradicts the prevailing narrative of a backward Arabia, forcing a choice between acknowledgement or silence. Unfortunately, the latter option is often chosen, as their advanced civilization simply doesn't fit the established, limited view. Let's now journey south to Yemen, to the Marib Dam, our next crucial piece of evidence. Its earliest mention dates back to the 6th century BCE. This era coincides with Homer's time and the traditional founding of Rome. Yet, simultaneously, the Sabaean Arabs in southern Arabia constructed an impressive dam. This structure, 600 meters long and over 15 meters high, spanned the Wadi Thana, creating an irrigation system that watered approximately 9,000 hectares of land. Pause and consider the sheer scale. 9,000 hectares of irrigated fields in central Arabia, a region often dismissed as barren desert. This agricultural marvel sustained an estimated 50,000 to 100,000 people, demonstrating remarkable engineering and societal organization. Ancient writers referred to southern Arabia as Arabia Felix, or Fortunate Arabia, a land of abundance, gardens, and wealth, not a wasteland. The Marib Dam endured for over a millennium, maintained through continuous repairs and reconstructions, until its ultimate collapse in the 6th century CE. This catastrophic event, known as the Flood of Aram, is even mentioned in the Quran, devastating South Arabian civilization and triggering a mass migration north. Far from being a mere legend, this is a historically verified event, documented across multiple independent sources. Yet, the dam is only part of the story. Adjacent lie the ruins of Marib City, the Sabaean capital, now mostly rubble in the Yemeni desert. Late 20th century excavations, before the Civil War, unveiled a highly advanced urban civilization, featuring multi-story stone towers, precursors to the skyscrapers of Shahbam. Consider this crucial detail. Trade seals discovered in Arabia bear markings identical to those found at Mohenjo-Daro in India, dating back to 3000 BCE. This remarkable discovery indicates that the ancient Dilmun civilization in Arabia was integrated into a vast international trade network connecting Mesopotamia, Arabia, and India, thousands of years before the rise of Islam. Another compelling piece of evidence comes from the rock carvings and petroglyphs across Arabia, a historical treasure largely unknown to the broader public, which itself raises questions. Tens of thousands of these ancient images have been found across Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman, and the UAE, with some dating back to the 10th millennium BCE. This means that sophisticated, meaningful images were being created on Arabian rocks as far back as 12,000 years ago, long before many known civilizations. Beyond depicting animals and hunters, these carvings include what archaeologists interpret as ritualistic scenes, astronomical symbols, and possibly even calendar markings. These are clearly not random scratches. They are the undeniable testament to a culture possessing the leisure, organization, and spiritual depth necessary to produce such intricate art. The final and perhaps most explosive piece of evidence for this part of our investigation lies in medieval Arab texts, which speak of a legendary region of immense power that mysteriously vanished. Behind this literary enigma lies a genuine historical mystery. Satellite imagery of the Rub' al-Khali Desert reveals terrain anomalies some researchers interpret as buried ancient settlements. Geologists have confirmed that just 5,000 to 6,000 years ago, Central Arabia boasted a much wetter climate, with rivers, lakes, and pastures where lifeless sands now stretch. This environment could have sustained urban civilizations, now lost beneath the desert before archaeologists ever reached them. We are thus confronted with a vast, multifaceted, and dizzyingly complex picture of civilization, encompassing the engineering genius of the Nabateans, the irrigation marvels of the Sabaeans, the international trade of Dilmun, the enigmatic inscriptions of the Lihianites, and the stargazing rock artists from 12,000 years ago. These are the true Arabs, not merely those presented in textbooks, but a people whose history delves so deep it disappears into prehistoric antiquity. However, our investigation has one more crucial clue: the most human of all individual destinies. A great civilization is not solely about stones and genes. It's about people whose lives, by themselves, constitute irrefutable proof. We have worked with silent artifacts, but now we seek the faces of individuals. The most compelling evidence of a civilization's greatness is not a dam or a tomb, but the living, thinking, creating human being. A person who, with a pen or compass, changes the world irreversibly. This story continues with a figure whose Latinized name, Al-Khwarizmi, became algorithm, now fundamental to every computer and search engine on Earth. Al-Khwarizmi penned a treatise, its Latin translation beginning, Algoritmi de numero. Europeans mistakenly took his name for a term, yet another of his works was even more pivotal. His compendious book on calculation by completion and balancing introduced algebra, which became algebra. He established it as a systematic science, not just computational tricks. He pioneered a revolutionary approach, finding unknowns in any equation type, moving beyond mere calculation of specific numbers. This shifted mathematics from arithmetic to abstraction. This intellectual leap was indispensable. Without it, Newton's physics, calculus, quantum mechanics, and computers would not exist. One man in an Arab century transformed thought. Al-Khwarizmi was no anomaly, but a testament to a culture that, from the 6th to 10th centuries, routinely produced geniuses. Such regularity transcends mere coincidence. This consistent brilliance stemmed from a robust system, deep traditions, and established institutions, the civilizational depth we've explored throughout our investigation. Ibn al-Haytham, in the 10th century, redefined optics with his Book of Optics. He experimentally proved eyes perceive light, refuting long-held theories of Euclid and Ptolemy. His groundbreaking work on the camera obscura anticipated photography by centuries. Rediscovered in 16th century Europe, it became the foundation for optics and artistic perspective. Ibn Sina, or Avicenna, authored the Canon of Medicine, a primary medical textbook in European universities for 600 years, lasting until the 15th century. He described infectious diseases, hypothesized microscopic agents, and developed quarantine concepts. His pharmacology surpassed European knowledge until the Chemical Age. Al-Biruni, a 10th century polymath, calculated Earth's radius with precision Europe wouldn't match for centuries. He even considered Earth's orbit around the Sun, 500 years before Copernicus. These geniuses were products of Baghdad's Beit al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom. Established in the early 9th century, it became the world's first true scientific academy. There, manuscripts from across the known world were gathered, translated, and reinterpreted. Meanwhile, Europe navigated its early Middle Ages, with lost texts and minimal scientific endeavor. Through these crucial Arab translations, 12th and 13th century Europeans rediscovered antiquity's great thinkers. The European Renaissance literally stands on Arab shoulders, a profound, often understated historical truth.